Okay, we're in the middle of Tuf Mem Zayin Sif Hey. I'm going to, this marker which was put here was not put in the right place. Okay, no, the next page. We got Kol Shois Ein Moel Hadocha. Right here.
I gotta mark that back.
Okay, well you had this over here.
Yes, the other one fell out.
Okay, fine.
I'm sorry.
So you have it. We passed this too, really. Okay.
Near what's the cutting marker?
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to stop next to Sif Katan Nun Tes. V'chol davar, v'chein kol davar shemavashlim b'kli chametz. Anything that you cook in a kli chametz, can go in yain mevushel, or merkachas or kedayma, also a Pesach. Even if there's no chametz involved. We don't have to be worried about it. If you have something which is chametz free, just cooked in a chametz sticker pot, and that fell into something else, then you don't have to worry. In other words, this is something that's nogea right now. A person, there are some people that have like a Pesach kitchen and they're already cooking for Pesach. And they're also cooking chametz. You know, they're being the Mishnah ochel chametz umatzah, right? They're busy in that department, and they have something which they're making for chametz. They're making potatoes, and a piece of those potatoes somehow fell into their Pesach potatoes. Okay, I'll just use that kind of an example. Okay. You don't have to be worried about it. Came nearly. And this is, we're about to get to the kind of a life that I was brought up with. There are those that are makbid not to fill their jug from the barrel that's used a whole year. Now this is what I call insane, right? How is something right? Okay, but it could go. No, how we're going to discuss how that could happen. What are we afraid of? Somebody poured something back. Okay, that could happen.
But if it's a sealed barrel, then
right. If it's not right, then there's no problem. This is only a chumrah, and therefore, if it's very painful to have this chumrah, you're not mechuyev to do it. You never fill from the big vessel with a chametz sticker thing. You don't drink from a Pesach. The kosher came so you don't have to worry about. Now this is next halacha we're going to learn is a fascinating halacha which is difficult to understand. When I was a little kid, this I'm telling you things that happened in the last century. When I was a little kid, there were plumbers. You know, nowadays when you screw two pipes together, you use this thing called Teflon. Teflon didn't exist when I was a kid. So the professional plumbers had this stringy stuff called pishtan, and they used to wrap the pishtan, around the pipe, and that would actually, it was way better than Teflon because it would soak up the water and expand, and it worked very well. There are those, when you didn't have Teflon, they would use anything that would expand when they did. And what the people who were traumas who did, they would take a piece of bread and wrap it around the pipe, and then screw the two pipes together, and this would seal the pipes. Okay? So there were people who were particular. Forget about the problem of taking water out of the Kinneret on Pesach. You have to take out of your faucet because your piping may be chametz sticker piping. Okay? Now, I'm going to say over some facts. I'm going to share with you a story that happened to me. I must have been married maybe 5 or 6 years. And I wasn't just married, but I wasn't married like as long as I am. And my wife made schnitzel on Chol Hamoed Pesach. I come home and I see the schnitzel. And I said, what is this paper towel between the schnitzel? She says, I do that all the time. I said, you use the kosher Pesach paper towel. So I went to see, and she didn't use the kosher Pesach paper towel. Now, why does your paper towel have to be kosher Pesach? The answer is that there's starch in your paper towels. So if you use your paper towels to clean your windows on Pesach, that's absolutely okay. But if there's a question that the starch on the paper towel could end up in your mouth, that you're not allowed to do that. So if you're going to take hot schnitzel and put it onto a paper towel, that paper towel could have chametz sticker or many times it's kitnius starch, you have a problem. Okay? Now to make matters worse, my wife finished a roll of paper towel and started another one. At the end of the roll of paper towel, there's glue. That glue is also problematic. Okay, but it worked out. We're still happily married. Everything is fine. It's not. But the question is a question. You understand? This is something. This is an issue that has to be dealt with.
Why is the starch or glue? Why is it thick for killing to eat?
I wanted to tell you something. Saor. You know what saor is?
You like barley or?
No, that's saorin. Right. Saor is what we call starter dough. You know what that is? You're not young enough, that's all. If you'd be from today's generation.
Make sourdough bread.
Right. What it is they take dough and they let it get rotten. And that rotten dough has a lot of it has a lot of yeast inside of it, and that will cause the new dough. You take a piece of that, you put it into your dough, and that's how you make sourdough bread. That yeast is called chometz gomer. Now the Torah, the Gemara actually discusses this. Why did the Torah have to tell us that chometz is aser and also saor is aser? The Gemara is like, it's super. So the Gemara says because it's not edible. Right? It's a regular chometz product, just it's not edible. But it's an ingredient in food.
Fleischmann's yeast would not be considered.
I don't know if Fleischmann's yeast, but what you buy here in this country, it's totally artificial. There's nothing. It's kosher Pesach.
Okay.
No, if I'm not mistaken, it actually is kosher Pesach. There's nothing to do with it on Pesach, but so this is a very important thing. The Gemara says that if you have a thing of chametz and you are miyachid it for yeshiva, you want to use it as a chair on Pesach, that's 100% okay, because it's not in the food department. But if you have food which is theoretically can be eaten, if it's not roi lachila and it could be eaten, there's a possibility you may eat it, or if it's roi lachila and it's not set up to be used for achila, that also you have to get rid of, or you have to put tiach on it, which is what the halacha is going to say over here.
You need something that's not roi lachila skeleton and is not something you eat to qualify as
right,
like a soap or whatever.
Right. I'll just share with you from the things that people are not aware of. Play-Doh is roi lachila. Okay? Now, its purpose is not to eat. If you get home, your wife didn't make you supper and you're hungry, don't take the Play-Doh. That's not going to make her any happier.
If someone has a starter dough that they've had for dozens of years,
yeah,
this is the one their grandfather had or grandmother had,
yeah,
and they sell it every year, but if it,
you have to feed it. You know that.
I don't know.
I do know. Yeah.
My son was discussing it because he's now making starter dough. He doesn't care if he gets a different one, but he said he was wondering if people are mocked it. I want my starter dough. What my grandfather or grandmother or great grandfather used is the sale.
They use the Mitzrayim. Yeah. What?
Is the sale a valid sale? He's selling to
Okay,
Gentiles.
I'm going to answer that question. I am right now putting on my American hat to answer this question. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein has a few tshuvas which are amazing. One is about a guy who owned a supermarket, and the supermarket was in a mixed area of Jews and non-Jews, and he would contract the rabbi to sell his chametz, and on Pesach the store was open for business as usual. So the question was, can you buy in that store after Pesach? Okay, is that like a regular American question, right? And Moshe finds, he says, fine. The Isser of Chometz is every minute, and the Isser of Gzela is only one time that you do it. So we say the guy's a Goslin, but he sold his Chometz. He's selling the guy's Chometz on Pesach. What's the problem? And the sale is valid. Not everybody agrees with that, but that is a pretty accepted opinion. Now, a person, I'm just going to tell you something. Okay, anyways, I'm going to share with you important machlekes there is amongst the poskim. There are certain things in Yiddishkeit that there are people that have problems with, and sometimes the same problem, one place people are machmer, another place people are mekel. One of those issues is, there's a question which is asked all the time, if you could sell your chametz to a goy on Pesach, why can't you sell your land on Shvius to a goy? Right? Okay. There's a few very basic differences. And since we're not near Shvius, so I feel a little bit freer to talk about the subject. My chametz, which I may have $1 million worth of chametz, if the guy will give me the fair price of $1 million for it, right? Mm-hmm. I have no problem. The person who's selling their land in Eretz Yisrael, they're not selling it for any price, right? So that's one of the issues. Another issue is whether you could sell somebody else's chametz, because it's also, according to many Rishonim, to sell land in Eretz Yisrael to a goy, and in Shlech L'Dvar Avera. But I'm just saying, but the one that's important right now is, in other words, I'm willing to get rid of all my chametz if you pay me, enough for it. I have no problem buying new. Now, when you have something which is a person's family heirloom, now the question which I were to ask somebody who, this is even before we get to the halacha. If you had a choice, either you sell it or you get kares, what would your son say?
My son wouldn't mind, but I'm wondering about the people who's talking about if they would say they'd rather have kares.
Okay. So, okay.
But my son said he has a dough, so new.
No. I'm saying most of the people, if it really meant that they're going to get kares, then they would be willing to sell it, right? So that.
If they were. Like,
the question doesn't exist for a normal observant Jew.
Because he would say, I'd rather sell it
than get kares, right? That's the bottom line. As painful as it may be, that's what he would do.
Got it.
Okay? Now, what about a person who's non-observant and he still sells his chametz on Pesach, which I grew up with many people like that. So then, that's where the question exists. But for most people, now even there are many places who would say that the mechira is chal. And like Rabbi Moshe Feinstein with but you don't have to get there. The average person, if it came down to the wire, he's okay with selling his chametz. Okay. I lost my place. Okay. They used dough to glue together the panes of wood. Okay. If the barrel was made within 2 months before Pesach, adayin rachu v'noisen tam b'Pesach. We consider that dough as an edible food, and it can give off tam in Pesach. Also lishtois, and you're not allowed to drink from that barrel. Why? The glue is there not to be food. It's not there to give taste to the food, but it's edible, and you're eating it. So that's enough to make it aser. Ve'im nasnu koydem lachem kvar nisyavesh ve'enu nasen tam bepesach v'shori. Then it's mutter. Okay. Now here's the part which is important. Miyum yesh kezayis batzek b'mokom echad. If you have a clump of dough that's a kezayis big in one place, chayiv levaroi afal pisha also lechazek. You have to get rid of it because it's, even though this purpose wasn't to eat it, but being that it's edible and you have to get rid of it, as it says over there, or you can put tit on top of it. You have to somehow make it clear that it's an unedible item. Okay, now. Here. Okay. Mishnah Berurah Ayin Beis. Shenosan Koydem Pesach Kvar Nizbatel B'Shishim. If it gave flavor before Pesach, it's Batel Shishi. Elisha also B'Shum D'Noisen Tamba Pesach Atzmoi. The barrel is going to be giving Tama Pesach. Duhu Mashu. V'av De Batzak Hazeh Hu Chometz Niksha. It's not classical edible chametz. Ubenuksha Sile Kama Boys came the bottle B'Shishim After Pesach. There are many places that say that once it's only semi-edible, it's bottle B'Shishim on Pesach. Hochagora. Why? Kivan shenosan hayayin almanas la'ashros hachavetz b'Pesach havik mevatel isul lechatchila. It's like you're planning to eat the chametz. Okay, and therefore it's also l'shtaisai. Avol lekayim osher kivan over. If it already had 30 days, then it's already considered that it's not edible, and you're allowed to sell it. Okay, you're allowed to keep it and not sell it. Okay. V'nosnu koydem lachem, da'anim shenosna botzek ledabe koydem shnei chadashim, v'ayin ta shedait adina dedai b'shloshim yom. You don't need 2 months, 1 month is amog, Avamog and Avraham, chok yankov daitum dina, k'mashmois aramo, that you need 2 months. Okay. Miru em yesh kezayis, de misvara, de retzon elem ra'af hu koydem shnei chadashim, b'mokom mech retzon elem ha'chut ha'botzek, Nifsak betayim, beror lenatel ka'achas, ki'ilu hayalach. It's all one. Then chayv levaroi. You have to get rid of it. Elam kein tachol betit. You put tit is what do I say tit in English? Yeah, plastic. You put something on it to make it that it's not in the food department. Okay.
With this glue, if it goes in contact with liquid, doesn't it dissolve into the liquid?
No.
Why isn't that a problem? Even if it's after one.
No, it doesn't.
That's the whole point. Well,
Yeah. Not all glues fall apart in water. I'll just tell you, from the glues that fall apart in water are ones made out of eggs, and ones made out of, different kinds of things, but some do and some don't. What? Yeah. All right. Now, this is also very important halacha. Melech shesamu b'meducha muter limlach b'basar b'pesach. You stored your melech in a maducha is a grinder. Then you're allowed to salt your meat on Pesach with it. Why? Because we will assume that the kli did not absorb the chametz from the maducha. This is a fascinating subject. This is again Isser B'Heter also. When do we say that a kli will absorb from other things? I just want to share with you a halacha in your day which is not so well known. A person should not use the same kli for salt, for milk and meat. Now there's 2 different halachas. That one is about a salt dipper. Salt shaker is never discussed in the poskim. They didn't have salt shakers. Salt shaker is a very relatively new idea. They didn't have salt shakers. Salt dippers. So there's one problem that maybe there are pieces inside. So therefore you should have separate ones. And that is not, everybody agrees to that halacha. Now there's another thing about storing salt in containers that are milchiks or fleishiks, and there the halacha is l'chatchila, a person should avoid it, but if you have it, you could use it, okay? So that means if you have a milchik or fleishik container that has salt, and now you need some salt for the other one, you can take it if you don't have anything else available right now. That is an important halacha. So this is true. What about maybe they absorb some chametz? Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ayin Ches, Va'afilu hi bas yoymoy shevos yom dachabu, that grinder was used that day. V'rak shehi ka'es nekiya, it happens to be clean. Afilu malach muno sham eis leis, it was there for 24 hours. Lo shaykh kavur ki b'davar lach v'lo b'yobesh. Kavush is only in something which is liquid, not something which is a solid thing. Afilo munach hamelach b'maducha b'pesach atzmai. Why? De'eno maflit b'tzoinin. Because it doesn't. Because you can't use a chametz-stained pot on Pesach. The maflit bo b'liyas hakli. Avol nesinas melech, putting down the salt in the kli. After amrina milch kiroseach, that salt is like a hot item. Le'inyan plitas kalim eino maflit b'tzoinin. It doesn't take out any flavors from kalim if it's cold. V'davka yovish. Avol tzoinin lach, if it happens to be wet, whatever it is, ayidei shriya choishesh le'il lahachmer, that it will take out flavor. V'nidoch v'amelach b'toicha, if you smash the salt inside this grinder, de'ika churfa v'duchka dedicha, you have something which is sharp like the salt, and you have the pressing of the pistol. Maflit min akli afilu hayavash hamelach legamri, even if it was dry. Vafilu hayamaducha einu ben yoymai gam koydem Pesach, even if it was einu ben yoymai before Pesach. This is very important halacha, that sharp things, they can extract flavors even dry. Okay, because our grinders, that most of our things that we do with them are just besamim. Leka chometz rakshash letamashu. You don't use it to make chometz. V'nidach kaidem pesach dinisbatel yesh lahatil limlach. If you ground up your salt before Pesach, in our kinds of grinders, you don't have to be choishish, you could be mekel. Now this is a very relative kind of halacha. It depends exactly what goes on in your house. There are people who make like kishka things and things like that they run it through a grinder, and there it would be actually chametz, then you would be able to use the salt on Pesach. Okay. B'aiser shedachin kayim Pesach b'maduchas f'machmatzes muter l'achlo b'Pesach. Why? Mishum de'eno maflet b'tzainon. It doesn't give off any flavor b'tzainon. V'afilu im nasa b'Pesach eno oiser im loya kli naki. Avum chotro b'sakin chometz b'toch Pesach yesh lahachmer. The stam sakin eino noki v'yesh lochosh lechometz hadavuk bo. Okay, I'm going to say over the halacha, and I'm going to share with you my problem with the halacha today. The Gemara and the Rishonim and Shulchan Aruch make a statement which I don't think is true nowadays. They say stam sakin shamnunis alponov. It has some residue of something fatty on its, on the blade. Now, I would ask you to imagine you went on a camping trip and you used your knife to cut your frankfurters or your salami or something like that, and then you took it to the pond and you washed it off and you brought it home. What do you do with it when you come home?
Wash it with
Wash in hot water. So
Water and soap, okay? There are two things that they didn't have 150 years. Three things. Soap, hot water, they had hot salavi, and running water. Right? No, all of those three things are essential in our way of life, but they didn't exist. So imagine that knife that you took to your barbecue, and then you came home and somebody immediately took it and cut a roll and wanted to put cheese inside of it. What would you say? Why?
Residue.
Right, that's all. And that's the halacha in Shulchan Aruch. Whether this applies nowadays or not, there's a bit of a discussion in today's poskim about it. So here it's saying that you have to be choishish, that maybe there's some residue. I'm not so sure that that's what I would say if you had such a question, because we don't live in that, it's not that the halacha changed. The halacha is speaking about a certain scenario, and we live very removed from that scenario.
Don't sort of want him to say that I've heard it you say that even though the situation has changed, the reason to give tzedakah, there might be many other reasons for that tzedakah, and you can't. The fact that the reason they give is no longer relevant, you can't for that reason.
I'll just say there's a Vilna Gaon that says something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but he says that about something which Chazal asered. Here, well, first of all, let's read the words of the Ramah. Yesh lahachmer, why? Distam sakin einoi noki.
Then you're fine.
Right? Okay. So I just say that our stam sakin today is not the stam sakin of yesteryear.
Wouldn't the Gaon say maybe there were other reasons?
No, the Gaon says that when they asered something, even if the main reason that they said doesn't apply, here they didn't aser it, they asered it on a stam sakin. I'm saying that we're not talking about that situation. You understand? This is something which is, I'll just tell you, there's a lady, she's not alive, to be alive today, she'd be well into her 90s. I visited her house in America about 15 years ago, and she had a new refrigerator with LED lights. When you open the door, they turn on and it tells you the temperature and all these things. So I said to her, "Are you allowed to use this refrigerator on Shabbos?" And she got almost lethal. She said to me, "When I was a young girl," and she listed the Gedolei Yisrael that came to her house, and her parents had a refrigerator in 1950, and they let them use it. So how could you come and tell me that there's some kind of problem? Okay, did the halacha change?
No.
The halacha is exactly the same. The question changed, right? So this is, that just takes, you have to know when is it that it's a halachic question, and when is it a let's see, stick a question. Okay.
We don't say with kidneys that the CS has changed, that you don't find.
I want to just tell you something. I have a friend of mine that works as a mashgiach in China. And he said he's seen many times that it gets mixed in together, because they process them in the same plant, one after the other. And he's seen
That's what you need to check.
what mixes together?
the kidneys and the grains.
And grain.
Yeah, this question is, I'll just tell you where the question is nowadays a hot issue. There are things like quinoa, which is a very big question, if it's kidneys or not. I'm not going to give my opinion on the subject. I'll just say that there are those who say that it is, those who say there aren't. I spoke about the Shabbos HaGadol, I don't know how many years ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago. But
Not recorded.
it's not recorded, okay. Not the night one or the day one? Okay. I'll just tell you that quinoa does not grow like zaroinim or like kidneys. It grows on something which is closer to a tree. So I'll just, and I'm just telling you, Today, even in America, I don't think there are people who use peanut oil on Pesach. And Rav Moshe Feinstein has a tshuva about peanut oil, and he says peanuts were never in the Gzer of Kitnius. But the overwhelming majority... What?
So corn probably wasn't there. Because it never existed probably in Europe.
Okay, but that's not the same issue, because corn grows exactly the same. Kitnius is a little bit of a different, So there's actually a fellow on this block was involved in a whole kuntris on this subject. I was cleaning my son for Pesach, I came across it, about kitnius on Pesach, the different reasons, the 5 or 7 different reasons, and different rishonim, and many things. I'll just make a statement about kitnius, which is amazing. In America, most hechsherim allow sugar substitutes that are made out of kitnius. And the reason why is because they go through many processes. So therefore, they say that this is too far removed, and there would be no gzer of kitnius on. Other places can say, it started off as a kitniya, it doesn't make a difference what happened to it. This is a very important, and this machlekes exists in all matters of Pesach, but every place is a different subject. I'll just give you another fascinating place. All you people tell me, but it's not roi la'achila. Okay, the Divrei Malkiel, he says if the reason that you're using this chametz is for a non-achila purpose, the fact that it's not roi la'achila doesn't matter.
You're using it for non-achila purpose?
Right.
Non-achila purpose?
Right. In other words, for food, when it's not roi la'achila, then it's not chametz anymore. But if you don't use it as a food, I'll tell you where he discusses it. Rabbi Yashiv takes this and he applies it to cigarettes. No, this is a very big subject if there's chametz inside cigarettes. And there are those who say that even if it is, by the time it gets into the cigarettes, it's already not roi la'achila, so then it's not chametz. It's like it was bottled before Pesach. And the others that say, being that you're processing them to use them, and they're perfectly fine for their intended use, how could you say that it's not chametz, it's 100% chametz, and it's being used as a chametz product? Being that it's not being used for achila is not the criteria to decide if it's roi or not roi. These are, and in every case, there's a different subject that has to be addressed to come to the conclusion of what the halach is. Okay. All right. Let's just see some Mishnah Berurah over here. Pegimo. Ubestava machzikin lamaducha shehi nekiya, va'asi lafuke lo yadinan shehi v'lchachas az aser. If it depends if you think that it's clean or not. Okay. Aval chatcho dahainu oisei boiser. Afilo ledaita she'eni nikra charef. Kol ki agav da she'eni dava charef. Afay de duchka shel chetach lavad loy mafrik. If it's not sharp, then it doesn't give off flavor as long as it's not hot. Mikol mokom yesh lochush lechometz hadavuk basakin. Techa Pesach, v'koydem Pesach shari haboisa ayedei hadocha shedichuhu. You just wash it off. Aval techa Pesach de b'mashu yesh lahach v'lechatchila shelo lochloi, and not to be saimech on the fact that it was washed off. V'ayim b'moged avron shadai today lahach ra'af Pesach rak b'dvarim hanasim ayedei akum b'kviyas kigon diknus they have dogim shechotu b'sakineim shel chometz. They buying from them fish that they use their chametz knives. Aval nasa came a base shall yisrael bakroi kigon shechotach v'sakin chametz davar she'enu choref b'Pesach sagi ba'adacha o b'greda. Just don't tell this to my mother; she would not be very happy about this. Chametz hadavar chol zeh im chotach davar she'enu choref. But if you did something which is choref, then even if it was clean, it would still be a problem. Okay, stop over here.